grammar. Esmeralda and her colleagues at Governor's School will be encouraged to read closely, imaginatively, analytically, and empathetically. She will also be engaged in creative and analytical writing workshops. Esmeralda is very excited and grateful to be chosen for this opportunity. She's an avid reader and often was one of the brainchilds of West Hook Middle School's Battle of the Books program. I can never forget her. She wants to study medicine with plans to becoming a medical doctor or surgeon. When asked about her interest in the field of medicine, Esmeralda replied, "Now more than ever, the impact that doctors and healthcare providers have on the world is immeasurable. And I want to be a part of that impact to help other people." She's active in honor societies at San Hook, including Mu Alpha Theta, National Honor Society, Science National Honor Society, and the Student Advisory Council. She's active in her local church where she provides landscape services. Esmeralda is interested in applying to regional universities such as UNC Chapel Hill, UNC Greensboro, or Duke University. And she's also considering Ivy League options through Questbridge College Match for the fall 2021. Miss Amber Locklear is a 16-year-old rising senior at San Hook also. She's ranked number 2 out of a class of 86. She has an unweighted GPA of 4 and a weighted GPA of 4.6034. She will be attending Governor's School West with her colleague Esmeralda, and she will study mathematics. Amber is very excited about this opportunity as well as our upcoming college research. Recently, she was identified as a Questbridge College Prep Scholar, allowing her to attend virtually Ivy League universities in preparation for Questbridge College Match Scholarship Fund in fall of 2021. And if you don't know, Miss Pigram and San Hook has a track record for getting kids through the Questbridge College Match to attend these universities. I know there's one young lady, Miss Green, who is at Columbia right now. And there's a young man at Duke University this year who's starting through that Questbridge program. This is quite an honor. In her desire to become a mechanical or aerospace engineer, Amber is considering attending an Ivy League college or university such as MIT, Caltech, or Rice University, as well as regional universities such as NC State Duke or UNC Chapel Hill. When asked about her interest in engineering, Amanda replied, "I want to hone my talents in mathematics into a useful degree to help others and build a stable future for myself." She's a member of the Mu Alpha Theta, Science National Honor Society, and the Students Advisory Council at her school. Amber also competes with Hook High Varsity Track and Field team, throwing the shot put and discus. She enjoys riding horses and is currently training a younger horse. In her community church, she primarily helps students, kids in math, but also other subjects as needed. Christopher Isaiah Joe is the son of Steve and Judge Regina Joe. He's a 17-year-old rising senior at Hope High School, where he's ranked 23 out of a class of 415. He has an unweighted GPA of 3.6957 and a weighted GPA of 4.0217. Christopher is a dedicated member of the Mighty Bucks Marching Band and is a member of the Wind Ensemble. He's a member of the National Honor Society and Bell Club. Isaiah will be attending Governor's School East at Meredith College, where his selected discipline will be instrumental music, and his instrument of choice is the trombone. At Governor's School, Christopher will focus on the study and performance of significant 20th and 21st century repertoire for our wind ensemble and the creation and performance of student works. The goal is to open windows onto the future for these students. Christopher plans to attend UNC Greensboro or North Carolina A&T University, where he plans to earn a bachelor's degree in music and/or economics and pursue a vocation in one of those fields of study. Rebecca Delaney Hammonds is the daughter of Robin and Tiffany Hammonds. She's a 17-year-old rising senior of Oak High School, where she's ranked number 4 out of a class of 415. She has a weighted GPA of 3.9583 and she has an unweighted GPA of 3.9583 and a weighted GPA of 4.3750. Rebecca will be attending Governor's School East at Meredith College, where her selected discipline will be math. Both Amber and Rebecca will be immersed in the math program at Governor's School, which strives to provide an atmosphere for students to independently contemplate and investigate problems that arise in contemporary mathematical fields. In addition, the program provides many opportunities through student-faculty interaction, seminars, and invited lecturers for students to gain an appreciation for both mathematics and the work of mathematicians. Rebecca plans to attend the University of Tennessee to study biology. After earning her bachelor's degree, Rebecca's goal is to attend medical school to become a licensed pediatrician and eventually to establish her own pediatric practice, hopefully Bravery. Rebecca works full-time. This is amazing. Rebecca works full-time at Chick-fil-A and part-time at Edinburgh Family Restaurant and still has that GPA. She's a member of the Health Occupation Student Association, the Student Government Association, the Bell Club, the Berlin Box Club, and the Native American Student Association at Oak High School. I present to you these 4 awesome students.
Your award.
I would like to present this award to Esmeralda Sanchez, Sandhope Girls College High School, English Governor School West, presented by the Polk County Board of Education, June 8, 2021. Congratulations.
One, two, three.
Okay, all right.
1, 2, 3. One more. Thank you. And then any family want to come on up? Come on up to join a good family picture. Brother. He's proud of you. And then Rosemary say something. Yeah. And then, ready? 1, 2, 3. One more. Ms. Pegram, do you want to get in one?
No, it's a good
All
right.
We're right here because we're gonna take a group shot. You come up today.
Amber, come on, Amber. Mr. Locklear. Go ahead.
Congratulations. Second degree, Polk County Schools presented to Amber Locklear, Daniel Earl College High School Math, Governor School West, presented by the Polk County Board of Education, June 8, 2021. Congratulations.
Yes. Where you going?
Second back.
1, 2, 3. 1 more. 1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah. Barbara, did you get it on?
No, she stepped back.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. 1 more. All right.
I would like to present this to Mr. Christopher Joe, as says, making the grade, Polk County Schools, Christopher Joe, Polk High School, instrumental music trombone. Governor School East, presented by the Polk County Board of Education, June 8, 2021. Congratulations. Mama, Dad.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4. Do you want to take your sample? So used to have it all. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Congratulations.
All right.
Like to say congratulations again.
Thank you.
All of you. You're outstanding. Making the grade. Polk County Schools. Presented to Rebecca Hammond. Polk High School Math. Governor Schools East. Presented by the Polk County Board of Education. June 8, 2021.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
One, two, three, one more. Thank you.
Family, all right. Oh my goodness, did they not coordinate like?
It was wonderful.
So well coordinated. 1, 2, 3, one more. And now if I could have the 4 students with Dr. Dallas and Mr. Cummings.
That is something, isn't it?
Deborah's in the same day.
So proud of you.
Before we take the group picture, I would like to make an announcement. Mr. Lyndon Cummins, Director of AIG and Advanced Studies of Polk County Schools, has been appointed by the State Superintendent and approved by the State Board of Education to the Board of Directors of North Carolina Governor School. Mr. Cummins will join 10 citizens of the state of the North Carolina Governor School Board of Governors. The policy governing North Carolina Governor School requires that the deputy superintendent serve on the board along with 10 other voting members, to include the superintendent, serve on the board, as well as a teacher, local director of gifted programs, the president or president designee of the North Carolina Governor School Foundation, and laypersons who shall be selected so as to represent 8 educational districts of the state. Mr. Cummins will begin serving on the board July the 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2024. The responsibility of the board is to recommend policies which shall govern the administration and supervision of the schools, and for observing and reviewing all phases of the school's operations. Congratulations to Mr. Lyndon.
If you feel comfortable, you can take your mask down, everybody. Ready? 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Mr. Cummings. Right there. Dr. Dallas, if I could get you, Mr. Cummings, and Dr. Register in a picture as well.
Jeez, congratulations.
This is awesome. Good job.
Ready? One,
Good
two,
job.
three, four. 1, 2, 3.
And the paint is up.
And honestly, though, on behalf of the board, this is an amazing
Yes,
man
it is.
who continues to be a voice, a strong, passionate voice for Hope County. And to make sure that our students have those opportunities, you advocate for them, you make sure that our students are included, so thank you very much for all of your service. We appreciate it.
If I can say one thing to the 4 students, it's customary that when you return from government school,
Yes.
the board will invite you back to come and share some of your experience.
Pictures, we want pictures.
Thank you.
Full experience, okay? Thank you, thank you. Our second item for Spotlight on Success is the bulletin board artwork display that's in the Board of Education foyer, and this month's bulletin board was completed by Hope County High School, so we would just like to say thank you to Hope County High School for providing their artwork.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, that is great. I'm all emotional. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have 2 items there. Can I get a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda, items 1 and 2.
I second.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes items 1 and 2. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, the ayes have it, the consent agenda is approved. We have some action items. And I will yield to our superintendent.
So thank you, Madam Chair, and members, this evening we do have 5 action items. We will start with action item number 1, which is the presentation of our Hope County Schools Mental Health Plan. Last month you were provided with an overview of the plan in draft form. So at this point, I'm going to ask Dr. Peggy Owens, our Executive Director of Student Support Services, and Ms. Danielle Locklear, our Lead Mental Health Coordinator, to please come and share the finalized plan. After the plan is shared, we will answer any questions and we will be asking for approval of the plan.
Madam Chair, members of the board, and Madam Superintendent, good evening.
Good evening.
What you have before you, and you've had an opportunity to review, is our draft mental health plan that we presented an overview to you on last month. So this month, we're just going to walk you through the plan, if you will. So we'll begin with the background information in terms of the status of mental health, and you have that information before you, as well as the narrative as it relates to the state of North Carolina and the school mental health initiative. We also have included the North Carolina law, which is crafted based on the school mental health policy that we shared with you on last month. And then you will find within the plan that we have crafted specifically for Hope County schools. As you will note, our vision statement for this school mental health plan is that the Hope County school system will provide a comprehensive social emotional learning practices and mental health support that prepares students for life in the 21st century. We also provided you with our mission statement for the plan, and also we've highlighted 3 goals, as well as the structure of the plan itself, which is a result of the SHAPE performance instrument that we utilize and is recommended by the state, where you see these 7 domains. And so we've given you a brief narrative of each of those domains as well. And then as we continue to move forward, then you will notice that we have each domain And we have a goal for each domain and its objective that's listed throughout the plan. And then at the, near the end of the plan, you will notice that we have include our multi-tier layer of support as it relates to how we actually will be implementing the plan in terms of, you see, the universal prevention, early intervention, and then the intensive intervention level. And so that is the way that we will work as we implement the plan. We also will have training, which is a crucial part for our teachers and all employees. And as you know, our work has been continuous. However, with this new policy that's passed by the board, but we are currently training, and we have trained. We started our training back in 2017. As you know, Danielle Locklear, she serves as our lead mental health coordinator, but she's also a trainer. She does most of the training, in fact, for the district with our teachers and other employees, along with Mr. Bob Lane, who is one of our school counselors. And you will see listed that we do have a listing of the topics for training as well. And that is a brief overview. We're just going to pause here and see if you have any questions that you would like for us to respond to as it relates to the school mental health plan for Hope County schools.
How many students do we usually have that come to through the program?
Then I'm gonna let Danielle respond to the data part in terms of how we keep the different types of data.
What we normally do is we normally log in the data of our students who present with self-harm. So we got that information for our students that if they present with a risk and we do a risk assessment, we collect that data. So I'm not sure what the accurate number is right now, because I know that sort of there's some question about how accurate it really is right now, because there was some information there that we put in if it was provided remote. But we did put last year's information in there in the plan as well. But we do screen those students and refer those students out. So we do have that information as logged and stored for those students. And we screen those students.
And so last year, what we included in the plan, that there were 150 students that were actually screened for self-harm. And so Ms. Locklear and also Ms. Alford, along with the counselors or the social workers at the school, they are the ones that will provide that assessment in terms of screening for the students, and then they will move to that next level. So we have included that in the plan. There were 57 that were referred to local mental health providers, and then 56 to providers of their choice. And then there were actually 29 students that was hospitalized as a result of aggression or self-harm. And that was for 2019-20. And so we're still, and we do capture the data, and we're still collecting the data for this current school year.
Dr. Owens, have we had any students in the school system that like just stated that they wanted to kill themselves, and then what did we do at that time?
Yes, ma'am. And we have a process set up in place, and all of our specialized support staff is trained. And so what we do, once those students identify or express that concern, whether it's to a peer, to a staff member, or they report themselves, we do a screening based on where and we used a Columbia screening tool. Mm-hmm. And so that's a tool that we trained on as a community. That was a community training we participated in. So once we screen our students and we determine what level, which is a mild, moderate, or severe, based on that information, we would make some notes on that and refer them to a provider of their choice. Now, for our students and for our community, we use Daymark, which is the walk-in program where students can walk in till 3 and be seen as an emergency. But sometimes students have their own provider and they choose to go to their own clinician to get further screening. And based on that screening, we'll determine whether or not those students, if those students are going to return, if they're referred out to the hospital for further services, or that it's sometimes based on the severity, we do refer to the hospital, and then they make the same assessments there because they use the same screening tool and make those determinations on what the next steps are.
And the screening includes like, if you have a plan, if you.
If they have a plan and
If
how
they
long it's
have
been since the thoughts,
yeah.
how long it's been since they've been having those thoughts and
Okay.
feelings, and if they have a means or access to,
To
something that would
anything.
harm them since.
What percentage follow through, what percentage do you have if they follow through the whole plan? Because sometimes they'll start and then once they do 1 or 2 stages, they'll.
So every student that we screen, we make contact with the parent. Now, if it's a mild assessment, we did assessment, it's mild, so what we do is still make contact with the parent and say, these are our concerns, these are a list of resources. If you feel that's a resource that you want to reach out to, here's those available resources for you. If they're moderate and severe, they have to follow up with a provider. So we link them to that resource, and once they initiate that contact, they will get something from that provider that says this student was seen or serviced at this agency, and then once they bring that back, then they can come back to school. But we make sure they're linked with the service. And then we'll follow up with those students, the counselors, and those site-based specialized support staff will monitor those students. And we maintain those students, so we always know who those students are because we have those students on a spreadsheet. So we have those lists of students that we can monitor ongoing. But now there are some students that are hospitalized. And so once those students are hospitalized, whether it's acute care or longer stay, we have a reentry process that's set up in place. So once those students show back up and say, hey, I've been discharged, so then we initiate that process, we bring them back in, we look at their discharge plan, their crisis plan, we look at their triggers, we look at their supports, we look at their coping skills, we look at their medications. You know, we have a group of discipline people at the table, so we sort of kind of make sure that we cover that support so that they have a really good, smooth reentry, so we can sort of kind of create that success for them. Because we do have students who go out for an extended period of time.
If they get their own provider, do they have to pay for that individual, if they're outside this plan, or is it school?
So those students, when I say their own providers, some of them have their primary care providers. So for instance, some of our providers in our areas, such as Sand Hills, Pediatrics, they are an integrated service provider. So they could take care of their primary care needs, but they also take care of behavioral health needs. So a lot of times parents feel comfortable going back to their own primary care providers for those students to be assessed because they know their children. So they feel more comfortable with that, and they can provide those same documentations. And they have a social work liaison that's in their facility that will reach out to us and say, hey, you know, we've seen Sally today, and, you know, we're going to send her paperwork, and y'all can meet to return her back to school.
I have a question. Did you all see more students as a result of COVID than you maybe saw 1 or 2 years ago?
I'm going to respond and I'm gonna let Danielle respond, okay. Let's say, I'm going to say yes and no. Yes, because we also have a tool, Gaggle and Go Guardian, in terms of students, if they said they are going to self-harm or there's some issue with them. And so we're responding with those tools as well. It's been very interesting, but it has been difficult for us to actually put our hands on students in terms of their social, emotional, mental wellness. But we are seeing it now. And of course, we know that school is out, but as the students were coming back in, we were actually seeing the anxiety and some of the other issues. You know, I remember I was at one of the middle schools, and one of the students, when we went back on the plan in February, and I said to the student, I said, well, do you know where your class is? And she said, ma'am, she said, I haven't been in school, and I'm really hesitant, I'm really reluctant about being here today. And so it's those are the types of issues that we have been seeing and that we have been dealing with. So there are different levels. The self-harm, you know, that is very real to us. We see that, but also the anxiety as well as the school phobia that we're seeing. Lots of that. And one of the things that we were doing some training today with our counselors, and one of the elementary counselors said today, she said that it's been so interesting because we're having to reteach behavior to students because they've been outside and they have not been connected, you know, with the adults. And so that has been it's just taken on an interesting path for us in terms of our work.
And I would say too, we might have the ability to follow up with those students on a day-to-day. For a lot of our students who did remain virtual. So some of those students who traditionally self-report were students we didn't physically see. And a lot of times with their crisis, it may be a crisis now, but it may have not been a crisis the next day. Or they didn't feel comfortable calling in versus being seen. So I think what we anticipate seeing is that when we see students return face-to-face, we anticipate seeing a large number of students. And we did have a couple of trainings, a couple of Saturdays, and it's so funny, we had this conversation, Dr. Owens and I, and she was able to sit in some of our Saturday trainings, and we had trained some folks, pre-COVID. And so then we did a couple of trainings with our youth when her first day training post-COVID or during COVID. And so one of the things our teachers were saying, they're like, we need this information, it's so important right now. Some universities are coming back and some of the issues we see, at least we see them presenting, is so different. So one of the things we really wanted to focus on, we talked about, was that safety, connection, and regulation, because that's the key pieces when we talk about bringing students back in and being trauma-informed and make sure we promote that safe place for those students. So we did some training today, so we're really pushing and make sure we do that coaching with our teachers to make sure that we can reinforce that support.
And I think just to add, a lot of the data that we have collected and what we've experienced really is why we use some of our ESSA money and some other federal money to say, we really want to have that mental health coordinator. We want to increase our guidance counselors. We need to have more support staff to really help kids as they re-enter, and we can help them kind of adjust and really give them the supports that they need so that they can be successful.
Yeah, because actually that tier 2 will allow us to provide some of that more direct support.
Well, thank you for all you all do and keeping abreast of the situation. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your
Thank
support.
you.
Are there any other questions regarding the mental health plan? If not, at this time, I am asking the Board of Education for approval of the Hope County Schools mental health plan.
You've heard the recommendation of the superintendent. What's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the recommendation of the superintendent.
Madam Chair, I second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the recommendation of the superintendent. All in favor? All opposed? The recommendation has been approved, excuse me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your work.
Good job.
Action item 2 is the presentation of the 2021-2022 Turlington Alternative Accountability Model. It is our plan to reopen that school next school year, and we're kind of rebranding and redesigning. But at this time, I'm going to ask Dr. Hunt, our Executive Director of Testing and Accountability, to please share the model. After he does share the model, we will answer any questions and we will be asking for approval as well.
Good evening, Madam Chair and board members. As Dr. Dowling just mentioned, that this is the alternative schools accountability model for 21-22 school year for J.W. Turlington Alternative School. And I'd just like to express that historically, currently, the grades that we served at or continue to serve at Turlington Alternative Schools, grades 6 through 12. So for the accountability purposes of state testing, we do use grades 6 and 7 reading, grade 6 and 7 math, grade 8 reading, math, and science, or math 1, I should say, for grade 8. And then for high school courses, it's math 1, math 3, English 2, and biology. So whenever we start talking about accountability rules, we do most of the time, matter of fact, I would say all the time historically, have enough students at the school that participate in state assessments to have a composite of 30 students or more. So that determines that subgroup for all students in which we get accountability results back. For this particular model this year, we have to have this information submitted to DPI by August 1st, 2021. This does not replace the school performance grades or any of the ESSA requirements. It's just a supplement to those requirements. There's going to be 3 different options that we'll talk about on the later slides, but if schools participate using option B or C, we will still get school performance grade calculations for those. The only difference is that those school performance grades are not displayed for public information. So they are not given out in the accountability results from the state. Only the alternative accountability results are shared. All right, I think that was good. We'll go to the next one. So as I mentioned earlier, there's three different options. The option A is the regular accountability model that all traditional schools use and the early college uses. So there's no difference there. And if we do not submit the information, then basically it says that this is the option that we would go with, and we have not used this model historically. The second option is option B. This is the historical option that we've used in the past 5-6 school years. But in this one, the way that it is calculated is that there is 20% student performance. And that 20% of student performance is the accountability results, such as we mentioned earlier, with all the EOGs and EOC assessments, including work keys, the ACT, any type of graduation rate. But we send our students from Turlington back over to the high school or San Jose Early College for graduation purposes. But then also with the math course rigor, there is a 60% growth piece in there that falls with the EBOS and their calculations, which basically states it looks at where a student entered into that grade level or that course, how much knowledge that they learned throughout that course, throughout the school year, throughout the semester, and then whenever they test, how they score. So that's kind of how growth is calculated in a nutshell. But then we also have 20% of student persistence, which means that we track and ensure that those students who transfer into Turlington, that if they leave, they also remain within the public school setting. And I think that over the last 4 years or so, we've kind of gotten better at doing that part and communicating with other schools. If the students tell us that they're transferring from us to another North Carolina public school, we reach out to that school system to ensure that that student has indefinitely enrolled there. The third option would be option C, and that basically says that it is up to the local, the LEA or the PSU to create an alternative accountability model. And in that model, it has to, the modifications of it has to have valid and reliable measures of the achievement and growth system. So in other words, we design how we want Turlington to be, the accountability results to be calculated. Then we have to submit that plan to DPI, and DPI has to vote on that and approve it. And if it's denied, then we have to revise it or go back and choose a different option. To go along with the choosing of those three options, we also have to have an insufficient data option under this. There are two options. The first option is to return scores back to their home school if the student transfers or at the end of the school year. And typically for Turlington, most of the students come from Hope County High School. So the example there would be that if those students are returning over to Hope County High School, then JW Turlington Alternative School would get the same letter grade as the high school would get. And typically, you have to think about that too, is how much time is the student spending at Turlington? Who's been teaching those students, how those students perform for those teachers, is that fair or ethical or whatnot to send those scores back to those teachers and back to that student. Then with the 3 years option would be to use the 3 years of historical data for the school in order to calculate the letter grade. And historically for Turlington, we have not had to use either one of these options because, as I mentioned earlier, coming into the presentation, is that we always have more than enough students that go over the 30 whenever we look at all the accountability pieces and state assessments. I did share some historical information with everyone, going back at least 4 years, and you can see that in those 4 years, we've always chosen option B. And we've also, for the insufficient data, we chose to use the 3 years of historical data for the alternative school. Back in 1718, the school was ranked as a progressive school, meaning that there was a change in the accountability results in at least 3 points or higher. So that was progressing. In 2018-19, the school had a rating of declining, which means that there was almost a 6-point decrease somewhere within there. 0 to 6 points or 1 to 6 points. Last year in 2019-20, in this current school year, Turlington did not have any data and will not have data for this year because we didn't do any state assessments or participate in state assessments at Turlington. This year we don't have students enrolled in Turlington, and last year because of COVID, the state of North Carolina did not administer any state assessments. So the next slide or the next chart here, just wanted you to see what could be reported if we went with option A. Right there in that third column with the school performance grade and score calculations in 2017-18, the school performance grade calculation would have been a 24, which is a letter grade of F. And then in 18-19, what could have been reported had we chose option A is that the school performance grade was an 11, which is also an F. But because we went with option B for those 2 years, those letter grades and those calculations were not reported to the public's eye. So the suggestion here, or my personal suggestion, is to continue with option B, to use the 20% student persistence, 20% accountability calculations, and then 60% growth. Then to go along with that, to continue with using the 3 years of historical data if we do not have 30 students or more who participate in the accountability model, which typically for Turlington, when we look at it, it's usually in the fall semester and in the spring semester, roughly about 100 students who finish out each semester. So by the time we administer the state assessments, we do have more than 30 students. So at this time, are there any questions about the alternative accountability?
What is the percentage of Sandhope early college students going to Turlington?
It's usually, honestly, it's about less than 5%. Throughout the school year, you get 1 or 2 students from Sandhope College.
Yeah.
I think you'll see that option B really kind of fits the context of Turlington, that it allows more weight to be on other indicators, which I think is something that's important when you have students that do kind of move in and might transition out. So I think those growth indicators are able to kind of reflect a little bit more about the growth and the accomplishments that they've done while they're there. So, any questions about that model? Okay. So at this time, I'm asking the board to approve the Turlington Alternative Accountability Model using option B for the 2021-2022 school year.
And to use the historical 3 years.
And to use the historical, 3-year historical data.
Yes.
You've heard the recommendation of the superintendent. What is the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the Turlington Alternative Accountability Model option B, which also includes 3-year historical data.
Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second that we will use the plan B and use the 3-year historical data. All in favor? All opposed? The ayes have it. Motion has been approved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hunt. Thank you. Our next action item is the presentation of federal grants for the 2021-2022 school year. At this time, let me ask Eric Fortenberry, our Executive Director of Federal Programs and School Improvement, to share the information. After the information is provided, we'll answer any questions, and once again, we will be asking for approval.
Okay. Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, Madam Superintendent. Good. So I'm here this afternoon to present the federal grant applications and go through our federal grants funds. So our application is due June 30th, 2021 to DPI, and so we're here to seek your approval. We'll begin with Title I Part C, that is our migrant. For fiscal year 22 allotment, for Title I Part C, the allocation is $164,907. That is a decrease of about $3,200. And our migrant funds are used to pay for 3 positions, but 2 of those are 10-month full-time migrant tutors that service our kids age 3 and 4, and also our pre-K through 8th grade. And also we have 1 12-month migrant recruiter. She recruits and she also serves the high school students. She works with the guidance department here at the high school once a week to ensure that our migrant students are on track. In addition to our migrant funds, we use the funds for our 2-week summer extended program for what we call our priority for service students. Priority for service students are students who have made a necessity move within 12 months due to work. So we are required to provide some type of extension for them over the summer, and we do that for 2 weeks for those students. In addition to that, we use the fund for our out-of-school youth. Out-of-school youth are our students are ages 3 and 4, as well as 18 through 21, that we provide services to them. I do want to thanks and give kudos to Dr. Ramser and her team, because our out-of-school youth, they make sure that those students have a device, even though they're not in our school system, but we still have to service them as far as internet usage. So she makes sure that our out-of-school youth have the equipment that they need for their services as well. In addition to that, we do have our family literacy classes, other academic and emotional support for our migrant families as well as our students. So we'll move now to Title II for the fiscal year 22 allotment. Title II is called our supportive effective instruction, used to be called improving teacher quality. That budget increased of about $19,810 from last year. And those funds are used for teacher salaries, tuition and reimbursement, our new teacher orientation, as well as supplies and materials. Title III, which is our language acquisition, that is about $69,837. With that, we had an increase of about $1,000, about $1,045 for that allocation. With those funds, we do service a part-time parent liaison that's supported at the transition center to help our families enroll for our non-English speaking families. In addition to that, we do hire 2 ESL tutors. Also, I want to thank Dr. Dallas and her cabinet and 1A for making sure that I got services, an ES teacher in most of our schools except for 2 schools, and these funds will be used to support them. Sandy Grove Middle, we will have a certified teacher that is retired that will remain on board with us. She began in January with us. And also at West Oak Elementary School, we have an ESL teacher that's returning to us, and she will be starting with us in August. So those funds will support those 2 schools as well for ESL tutors. So all schools will have their own person to service the English learners. In addition to that, all of our ESL teaching positions are paid from state funded sources, PRC 54, as well as PRC 24. And the remaining of those funds are used for professional development opportunities to support our ESL teachers as well as our regular classroom teachers. And this year that's going to be critical because in 2022, the state as well as we are rolling out our new ESL standards. So they will be coming out in January. In addition to that, we do have to have a multicultural day for our English learners. And we are required under ESSA to have an ESL Title I night or ESL night to inform them of their rights and responsibilities and services provided. Also in Title IV, we have that allocation that is called our Student Support and Academic Enrichment. It's about $202,000. That is a slight decrease, about $5,000. And that grant covers 3 areas: well-rounded education, safe and healthy students, and effective use of technology integration. However, the effective use of technology integration cannot go over 15% of that allocation. And then we'll move to our big budget, which is Title I Part A, which is our for basic programs. We received $2,753,337. Okay? Let me give you some just a quick background. For this year, the state did say, as well as the federal government, that we did not have to use our numbers this year for our free and reduced, that we can use our 1920 numbers for free and reduced. So those are the numbers you will see that I pulled from the 1920 of April 29, 2020, that I received from our child nutrition department. So that's how that is determined as far as our allocation for Title I, as well as all other allocations.
Ms. Courtmary, that helped us by being able to use 1920 data.
Yes, because that really helped us. If not, some of our schools, and we were extremely low, our budget could have decreased significantly. So with that, we did have a decrease of about $43,000. So of our budget, 12% is used for administrative costs. That's for director, office secretary, as well as the program assistant. In addition, we have set-asides for Title I. Our set-aside is for foster care. That is a mandate that we do provide transportation and services for our foster care students. Homeless education, we do have to match those funds to provide services for our homeless education. In addition to that, we do have to pay indirect costs, and that increased this year to 2.861%. In addition to that, we do set aside $150,000 for our pre-K, North Carolina Pre-K Smart Start and EC program. We have 5 locations for that. That's West Oak Elementary School, Sandy Grove Elementary School, Hawkeye, and Upchurch, that we provide services to those students as well. So if we go and you look at the bottom here, you can see each school allocation. Once again, it's based on the April 29, 2020 data. You look at Hawkeye, their low income, which is 426. And remember, we do have to rank and serve. Rank and serve means that we have to serve the highest student population of free and reduced, and then go down, decrease and go down. We are required to service schools that are 75% or higher first before any other school for Title I funding. So when you see, you're gonna see all the red here, that all schools decrease, and I'm gonna explain why everybody's in red, because I know that's a concern. So again, Hawkeye, 426, they have low income students of 426, and I do use the multiplier, the 1.6 multiplier, to determine that, and their free and reduced is 98.84%. So that gives them an allocation for this year, just on this particular budget, of $217,306.86. That is a decrease of about $7,500. McLaughlin, 251 students are low income. Their low, free and reduced is 89.96%. Their allocation is $128,037.61, about $4,400 decrease. West Oak Elementary School is 400 students, free and reduced, they're 81.30%, allocation $204,044, about $7,100 decrease. Sandy Grove Elementary School, 482 students, that's low income, 79.93% are free and reduced, $245,873.02, their allocation about $8,500 decrease. Upchurch, 579 low income, 79.86%. Their budget is $295,353.69, about $10,000. West Hope Middle, 435, 73.23%. Allocation is $221,897.85. Remember, I said the top priorities have to be over the 75% threshold. Then you go to Scurlock, 488 students, 70.83%. Their allocation is $248,933.68. Dropped about $8,600. East Hope Middle School, 461 low-income students, 63.06%. They're free and reduced, $235,160.71, about $8,100. Then you have Sandy Grove Elementary School, 389 low-income student, 52.85%, $198,432.79, about $6,900. And then the last school is Don Steed, 334 students, 51.94% low income, $170,376.74. This is based on the current allocation. However, when we get our carryover, hopefully about June 15th, that we can bring all schools out of the negative. It's at least the schools that are 75% or higher, priority would go to those schools first, and they should come out of the negative.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I'd like to ask a question. I note that Rockfish is not here. Okay, so Laura, you just didn't have enough money to do the.
No, ma'am, Rockfish does not qualify for Title I funds because they're free and reduced. They're sitting at about 23%, so they do not qualify. In order to qualify for Title I funds, you have to have 40% of your population as free and reduced.
And you said they're about 23%?
About 23%. So they will not qualify. And our qualification is based on direct certification from DSS. We are a CEP district, so we do not take the applications. So all of ours are direct certification from DSS. Any questions for me?
Question? No, thank you.
I just have one.
Yes, ma'am.
You may have answered, I don't know. But when you were talking, and I think in the Title III, for the extended day opportunities for these parents and students, what's the range? Is that from K through 12? Even when they get in high school, can they still have the academy parents and students to still be able to?
In migrant or in English learners?
In Title III.
Title III, yes, ma'am. If they are, as long as they are identified as an English learners, they can receive those services. Once they exit out, we are required for 4 years to monitor them, because they are considered, as far as our data, for 4 additional years as monitor students. So they can receive those services as well. Only ones on migrant students are different. Even once they graduate, we can still service those students up to age 21.
Thank you.
Erica, why did we, in Title I Part C, why did we have that decrease?
For migrant,
Uh-huh.
because in migrant funds are based on 2 years. Since the state used the 1920, they went back 2 years, and that's the reason, that's how that allocation came out. Migrant's budget is determined over a 2-year span.
Oh, okay. Do you know, or do you have any idea what the new ESL standards would probably include?
The standards are not going to change. What they did, they put them under a new umbrella, and they're addressing one particular issue, and one of that issue is gonna be on equity and cultural awareness for our English learners. So that's one of the big areas for the standard change. So it's gonna be a new umbrella under the area. So the standards did not change.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Fortenberry. So at this time, I'm asking the Board of Education for approval of the federal grants for 2021, 2022.
Well, you heard the recommendation of the superintendent. What's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the federal grant program for the year 2021-2022.
Madam Chair, second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the federal grants for 2021, 2022. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it to approve the 2021, 2022 federal grants. Thank you.
Our next action item is the presentation of our school grounds maintenance services contract. At this time, let me ask Ms. Wanda Chavis, our finance officer, Scott Mavis, our executive director of maintenance, to share information regarding this new contract. After they share the contract, we'll answer any questions and ask for approval.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, Madam Superintendent. We're here tonight to present our contract for our school grounds maintenance services. About April, May, we started looking at our current vendor, and we thought we had a contract with our current vendor, and we discovered we didn't have a contract on file. We had specifications, but not a contract. And in the process of doing this, over the past year, we've noticed that his prices would increase without prior approval from anybody. So we just started investigating some of the things that were going on with our current vendor. So we decided to bid out our school grounds services. We bid it out and put it in the newspaper, ran it for about 4 weeks. We had 5 vendors that were interested in the contract. We received our bids back and we opened the packet on Friday with all the vendor submissions on the Friday before we got out for Easter break, I think it was. And with the 5 companies that bidded on services, the bids ranged from $106,680 to $261,720. And in the bid, it was specified that they would cut grass or maintain the grass 3 times a month for the months of July, August, June, and May. For the months of September, they would do it twice a month, September, October, March, and April. And then the months of November, once a month, November, December, January, and February, they would maintain it at least once a month. And like I said, we had 5 companies to bid, and these were the different ranges. Once we got that back, we set up some specifications that we wanted our new vendor to partake of. One of the things that we suggest, or we have in our contract now, is that all work will be performed between 6 a.m. or 4 p. or after school between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. And then either on Saturdays between 7 and 6 p.m. That way the vendor will not be on campus while schools are having instruction during the day. One of another things we recommended is any materials they may use that the maintenance has to have a MSD sheet, MSD sheet, which was if they sprayed some type of Roundup that may be,
Any kind of chemicals we gotta have an MSDS sheet on it. That way, if Oscar somebody comes up, you know, we have records of what they're using and what they're spraying and, you know, any kind of chemicals that they're using. So, you know, we know that it's not any harm or anything like that.
Also, when with the new requirement for our contract is we're going to require that the vendor complete 6 offender registry check forms on all of his employees that will be on our campus. He will also provide us with his workers' compensation forms, his liability forms, and we will also be doing criminal background checks on his employees that are on our campuses.
And we decided to pick Quality Lawn Care. He's a Hoke County native. He went to school here at Hoke High, graduated from Hoke High. It's called Quality Lawn Care Service. His name is Roderick Virgil. He's from the Hillcrest area. I checked over his references and they're all turned out really good. His full-time job that he was doing before was he was a nurse on a helicopter, life flight. And so he's a really nice guy and all the references checked out. So I think we decided we're gonna go with him.
Or that's our recommendation.
So it's not gonna be cutting no bushes or nothing, just cutting the grass?
They maintain some of the shrubs and things like that, yeah.
The new contract is he'll be cutting all the bushes, especially around the baseball field and softball field and you know, sidewalks and, you know, we got that on this contract this time, where it keeps all that up this time. And it's also got where he's, cause we get a lot, me and Roger get a lot of calls every day from each principal, want to know when they're gonna cut and everything. And now this time he has to give me a daily list of where he's gonna cut the next day. So I can keep up with it and where he's gonna cut. So I know where he's gonna cut. You know, especially when school starts back in August, it was crazy. And so we got more of a hold on that now and where he's gonna cut and exactly where he's gonna cut. So.
And when we met with him this week, he said he would, between him and Scott and Bodine. They would develop a schedule and he would let Scott know who his employees would be on the campuses. So he would know who to report to and then that person report back to him. So we would have better control of which of his employees are actually on our campuses. And then also I asked the question because I said, will we be able to distinguish your employees? He says they wear a shirt that says Quality Lawn Care Service. So if you would walk up on campus and see somebody, which we were asking them not to be there during school days. But if you happen to ride by and see this person should have on a shirt that says Quality Lawn Care Service.
And with Bodine in the mix too, Bodine will cut, let's say he'll cut West Middle and they'll be following right behind Bodine. So that way it'll look nicer instead of, you know, just jumping around every which way. It'll be more systematic, you know, where we're keeping up with the grounds and what it look like a bit better now. So, any questions?
Thank you.
And what's their salary?
It was $130,000 for the year.
Yeah.
I told Della she and Barbara and myself, we better start that business. I'm direct.
We should get in the middle of it.
We'll have to check your references. Any other questions regarding the new contract?
That includes all schools and the apartment complex
And the Board of Ed.
and the board ed.
It's
Great.
actually a lot of hard work, in my opinion, because I have to do my own yard, and I don't know if I want to go in there with you, Ms. Vicky.
Thank you, Ms. Chavis and Mr. Manis. At this time, I am asking the Board of Education to approve the school grounds maintenance services contract.
You've heard the recommendation of the superintendent. What's the pleasure of the board?
I make a motion that we approve the school maintenance contract for 2021-2022.
Is a contract?
It actually would go beyond.
But it's, well, it's every year.
Yeah, it's just
every
for
year.
yeah.
Just for this year, okay,
Yes.
2021? Okay. Do I need to say it again?
It's been moved and second to approve the maintenance contract. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, maintenance contract has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna have Ms. Chavis stay up there, because Ms. Chavis's next action item is the presentation of the 2021-22 continuing budget resolution. So if you'll please share that information, we'll ask for approval after that as well. Do you need a hard copy one?
Do you have a colored copy? I would appreciate it.
Here.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
So as many of you may know, we currently do not have a state budget. From the last indications I heard, the Senate was supposed to start the budget. The Senate cannot agree on revenue. The possibility that the House would go ahead and start their budget, even before the Senate is what I'm hearing right now, but we have no indication of when we might get a budget. We might be doing mini budgets again this year, but for us to continue operating, we have to do a continuing budget resolution.
Right.
So, this is our continuing budget resolution for the 21-22 school year. Be it resolved by the Hood County Board of Education, the following revenue amounts are hereby appropriated for continuing operations of the Hood County schools for the fiscal year July 1, 2021 through September 30, 2021. And that's just and hoping we will have one by September. If not, we will have to do another continuing budget resolution. The approximate amount of funds I think we would anticipate spending between now and September of state public school funds will be about $15 million. And these are our expenses. Our local current expense fund of $1.8 million, federal grant funds of $4 million, capital outlay funds of $1 million, child nutrition funds of approximately $1 million, and other restricted funds of $950,000. And then the following expenses are expenses, of course, have to match our revenues that we anticipate spending, which is exactly the same for July through September. Our state public school, which is $15 million, again, local expense, $1.8 million, federal grants, $4 million, capital outlay, $1 million, child nutrition, $1 million, and other restricted funds, $950,000. All appropriations shall be paid from the revenues restricted as of use and second from the general unrestricted revenues. The superintendent is hereby authorized to transfer appropriations within a fund for under the following conditions. Amounts may be transferred between some sub-functions and objects of expenditures within a function without limitations and without a report to the Board of Education being required. Amounts may be transferred between functions of the same fund with a report of such transfers being required at the next meeting of the Board of Education. And amounts may not be transferred between funds nor with any contingency appropriation within a fund without the Board of Education approval. So this is our continuing budget resolution for the 2021-22 school year. Any questions or concerns? Yes, ma'am.
I just want to be sure you have the money.
As soon as they give it to me, I will. With their state funds, they give us a planning allotment and they'll do a continuing budget resolution also. So as we request the money, we will. And then our federal grants, most of those have been approved. For example, the ESSA 2 and ESSA 3, we've already been approved. And as we expend those this summer, and those funds will be available. And of course, we're waiting on the county commissioners for local and other
For
expenses.
July 1.
The county has to have theirs by July 1, yes.
Just check.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Okay, so if not at this time, we're asking the board for approval of the 2021-2022 continuing budget resolution.
Before the recommendation of the superintendent, what is the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we accept the recommendation made by the superintendent to approve 2021-2022 continuing budget resolution as was stated.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2021-2022 continuing budget resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it to approve the, that'll operate, 2021.
Yes. Thank you.
Continuing budget resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. That does conclude our action items for this evening. I know that was a lot. Thank you.
Next on our agenda is information items. I yield to the superintendent.
Okay, so at this time, information item A is an update on COVID-19 data. And any new information, I'll ask Dr. Peggy Owens, our Executive Director, Student Support Services, to please speak to that. I like how Peggy, you change the color every month just to keep us on our toes.
We have to keep alert and we have to have something bright.
Yes,
To inspire us. Okay, so we can move through, Ms. Bowman, if you will, to the data. Okay, so what you have before you is the whole county data. And in that first row reflects the June 3rd data for Hope County, and the number of COVID cases was 4,832. The total deaths, 56. And as we look at, begin looking at the vaccination rate, you'll notice that we had 9,984 at 18%. And in terms of partially vaccinated residents, Hope County. So those persons who have been fully vaccinated, we have a total of 11,522, right at 21%. So on that second row, I left the information there reflect from the month of May that I shared with you. So you can see that we have, as it relates to the number of persons being vaccinated, partially vaccinated and vaccinated, that we've had an increase. So that is good news. However, we've had one more death, and we've also had increase in cases as well. So with that said, we want to be mindful that even though we are emerging from COVID, we still have to practice. We have to practice the protocols that we have in place, and we're currently continuing to practice those during our summer camp as we begin that. So we will keep those protocols in place. For as the dashboard information specifically for our school system, you will notice that for the week of June 1st through the 4th, we had a total of 2 students that tested positive for COVID. The next slide is the data that we reported to ABC Science Collaborative, which that reflects for middle school only, and that was a total of 2 students. So what's new? What's new? Vaccination event. I thought, I won't tell that story. Anyway, so we are very fortunate, and I say this each time, that we have wonderful people at our health department that looks out for us. And Ms. Edwards, she is a great health director along with her employees. So we were able to schedule a vaccination event for Sandhope Early College. As you may know, they are currently started today with students, their bridge program. On Monday, they begin with the parents. And so we did start that vaccination event today. And we are pleased to say that we were able to get shots in 4 arms today for our students. So that's for students ages 12 years old and older. They have also provided us with the Jensen vaccine, which is by Johnson & Johnson. That's the one-shot vaccine. So if any of the parents that would like to get the vaccine, they will be able to do that as well. So in terms of strategizing and trying to increase that rate, this evening, I think it has already gone out at 7 o'clock, we sent a school reach message district-wide to our parents to let them know that this vaccination event is occurring at Sandhope Early College. And we will have one more day. Instead of going through the 10th, we're only doing we did today, and we will do tomorrow. And then we'll be scheduling additional vaccination events for our middle school and high school over the course of the summer camps. So that's an update for COVID-19. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So I know the bridge program is for students and I think some of the bridge program includes the parents as well.
Yes, ma'am.
When is that?
So the parent session took place yesterday.
Okay.
And so all the parents were on site yesterday. In fact, Ms. Pegram reported that she had 88 parents on site.
Did we do any shooting?
Ma'am?
Well, let me change the way I said that. Did they get a shot?
We started the vaccination event today.
Oh, and they were.
But they are able to, the way we have it set up, that we start at 2:30. So when the parents come to pick up their children or their child, then they have an opportunity to get the vaccine along with their child.
Okay.
And so that's the way we have a designated space, and so they're able to do it. In fact, both of the parents that brought their children in today, they shared with us that they had already been vaccinated. So that's where we are. So we're expecting to increase that number tomorrow.
How do we educate, I guess, because, I see people and, they're coming into the stores or whatever, and they might say, well, I'm vaccinated, but that doesn't mean, how do you educate, I guess probably the school system, because you probably have some people that, because they say they're vaccinated, but you still need to wear your mask unless somebody else is not vaccinated.
And I speak for the school system, we monthly, we have our meetings and give them update as far as, and a lot of times, an executive order might say one thing, but we always look at what the CDC recommendations are and what the strong schools recommendations are. And a lot of times in the school system, we stay with not just the required, but we also layer in the recommendations, which is why, like Saturday, in a large crowded, facility, even though you were outside, we encourage the masks. Because that's what CDC recommends.
Right.
So we talk a lot with our staff about why we're doing things, and because a lot of times we'll hear it on the news as a blast, like, oh, no wearing a mask, but then we kind of come back and say, well, this is how it impacts the school.
Yeah.
So as Dr. Owen said, for summer camp, we're following our same protocols. Screenings coming in, they're still wearing their masks. All of those are still in place for the summer camp.
And our nurses, they do a lot of one-on-one as well, and constant reminders. So, that is constant for us.
And these total deaths, is this total
For Hope
ever
County.
since the,
Yes,
for
ma'am.
Hope County, ever since the
Since
COVID?
the
or-
beginning.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. We're tracking that for Hope County.
For Hope County.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do we have any incentive here in Hope County for people to get that vaccination? What?
Talking about like the Walmart card.
Yeah,
and all that.
something going
I'm not, but Ms. Edwards shared with me that they were working on something. I don't know what that's going to be, but that would come out of the health department.
So that'd be
And
ready.
they,
Would that be
I'm sorry.
Would that be retroactive?
I can't speak to what the health department is going to do. Yes, ma'am.
Some people are not accepting the issues that do,
The incentives.
incentives. I know, I was talking to one of the, farmers today, and, last month, the company met with him and wanted him to do at least, he said about 1,500 vaccines. And you know what? He said only 18 signed up. They wouldn't accept any overtime pay, they would not accept any incentive that they try to give them. Say they were 18 signed up.
Wow.
So it's just these people, I don't know why, but some are just not going to take that assignment.
Absolutely.
They're not gonna do it. So I guess we need to just stay safe. We have our house and
Right.
keep our masks on. I say, go ahead and get the disease and go ahead on
Oh,
down.
God.
That's what I said. I don't think but I say it's a shame for people to do this, but we need to stay safe.
Absolutely.
I
And
got
that's-
mine and I keep my mask on.
Right, and that's the key for us to continue to practice. You know, I think for us, within the county here in Hope County, of course, Ms. Edwards would like to see the numbers. You know, she keeps pushing in terms of people coming in to get vaccinated. And right now, you know, she would like to see more. And so I think that's the message that all of us have to share out there. I think perhaps maybe one of the most successful events that we had is that when Dr. Smith and she had a group over at Freedom Chapel. And the first event that they did, I think they had like 300 vaccines, and they were able to get those 300 in the arms of everyone. And then it's my understanding the second event, I think they only served maybe about 200 individuals. So, you know, we still just have to continue to push, not only, you know, within our county, but throughout the state, really throughout the nation, the world, because the numbers seem to be declining right now in terms of persons getting the vaccine. So I'm not sure, but, you know, as you said, we all have to stay safe and we have to protect each other.
Because even though we've got the vaccine, because not been shot for that, I've been vaccinated, you still can get it, but it might not be as bad, and I could have it and not be, really have it bad, but someone who hasn't had that shot, I could actually give it to them.
Absolutely.
But people don't understand that, I think a lot of people think, well, I've got my shots and I don't have to wear a mask, but that ain't the way it goes, as far as I'm concerned.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Appreciate it. Information item B is just a brief overview of ESSA 2 and ESSA 3 funding. We did work as a team and reviewed those. So this evening will just be a brief overview. Ms. Fortenberry, share that.
Back again. Madam Chair, Board members, Madam Superintendent, just gonna give an overview of the ESSA 2 and 3 funds. Remember, we met on May 18, 2021, so we gave you an in-depth had an in-depth discussion on the funding sources. Remember, under ESSA, we had 3 allocations. We had ESSA 1, 2, and 3. ESSA 1, you know, about $2.2 million. We received that last year, and that went mainly to our PPE equipment. In addition, we had ESSA 2. We got approved for that. That was $9.1 million. And we have that grant for 3 years. And then we just received approval about 2 weeks ago. And that was $20.4 million. So the state did approve that from the last time we had our meeting on May 18th. Okay. And the purpose of the COVID-19 pandemic funds was to prevention of, reduction of, and in response to the pandemic and to the virus. And it's fell under 3 umbrellas as far as allowable uses. We have the student learning needs, health and safety, and as well as the employment. And in addition to that, you can see the different areas that we had to address within the grant. We go to the next one. And for us, the planning for the ESSA 3 funds, we met with school leaders as well. They went back and met with their staff. Also, we had central office, again, central office met for 2 half days. Everyone had input. We also met with, in February with our stakeholders and received their feedback. So all stakeholders had input into this planning and the needs for the district. So once again, those are the allowable uses. It's 12 allowable uses for the ESSA 2 and 3. And so here you should have a handout on how those funds are used on the student learning needs. We looked at a math and reading core curriculum and supplemental resources for our subgroups, science and social studies supplemental resources, our intervention specialists for our K-8 schools, dropout prevention specialists, support staff, looking at our nurses, social workers, guidance counselors, mental health facilitators, and our psychologists. We also looked at additional supplemental curriculum materials for our subgroups, EC, our student with disabilities, our English learners, and our AIG. And we're looking at a social and emotional learning curriculum, and then our summer learning camps. You know, we'll kick off our summer learning camp starting this Thursday for our open house, and that will last for 6 weeks. And each summer up into 2024, we will have a summer learning camp. Under teacher instructional support needs, we looked at professional development, learning management system and online resources. We're gonna get DocSign, Zoom, and Zoom Room. And Canvas, all of the learning management online resources. That's what it's gonna be under that area. And then educational technology. And then health and safety needs, we're looking at that. We're looking at our ventilation system, air conditioning, sanitation, replacing windows and doors, and having touchless systems or features. In addition to that, we're looking at buses, modules, as well as furniture, so we can continue with our social distance of students to prevent the virus or to reduce it, as well as cleaning and sanitizing supplies. Any comments or questions about ESSA 2 or 3?
Thank you, Ms. Fortner. Just wanted to make sure that we provided one more overview of that. Appreciate that. Information item C addresses our remote learning in clement weather days. As described in Senate Bill 654, we're prepared if that passes. Let me ask Dr. Hunt, our Executive Director of Testing and Accountability, to please share that information.
Good evening again. If you can go to the next slide, please. Just like to keep in mind that this is concerning the inclement weather and or emergency closures and how remote learning as a plan can, we can use those type of remote instructional days to make that, instead of doing traditional makeup days on a Saturday, we can use those hours in remote instruction instead. Yes, there you go. So this slide right here just basically covers everything that I just said. Just keep in mind that these 5 instructional days that we plan to share with DPI is not in lieu of our traditional calendar time. In other words, we cannot use these days as a traditional day without it being an emergency closure. So it has to be an emergency closure to use remote instructional day. The plan, if it gets passed, or if Senate Bill, House Bill 654 passes, we have to make this submission to DPI annually by July 1, which is why we are sharing this information with you today. Just in case it passes, then we are prepared to go ahead and move forward with doing so. And what we have to submit to DPI is a plan that outlines all the information, as well as the number of instructional days or hours that we plan to use, and currently those hours would be at least 5 days. So requirement 1, which basically addresses what tools we would use to facilitate remote instruction, and that's going to be everything that we currently use in our remote instruction plan now. Zoom, Seesaw, Canvas, PowerSchool, SchoolNet, smartphone devices, hotspots for those teachers or staff members or students who need access to internet, as well as our technology devices such as iPads and Chromebooks. Requirement number 2, how it details the training opportunities that we provide for staff, students, and parents. And of course, it's basically still the same thing. As far as staff is concerned, that's face-to-face when capable. We're still using what's called the Canvas Chronicles, which our digital teaching and learning department sends out on a weekly basis to all staff members. We have a YouTube channel with the digital teaching and learning facilitators. And if you have a copy of the actual PowerPoint, which I think you do, those are hyperlinked, so you can click on there and view the channel if you haven't seen that. As well as that option is available for students and parents as well as their website, Digital Teaching Learning Facilitators website, which houses a lot of useful information for both parents and staff. And I would also like to point out that as far as face-to-face instruction is concerned, students will have the opportunity to use all of these techniques in the classroom on a daily basis, and they will not be required to use anything that would be considered new or something that they have not had the chance to practice on an emergency closure day. Requirement number 3, how we're going to track attendance. That's basically what we're doing now. It's still the same plan, which is using PowerSchool, which is the authoritative source for attendance. In case that PowerSchool is not available, we will use either Google spreadsheets or Excel spreadsheets and then upload that information whenever internet is available. And then to go along with that, we are requiring, because we plan on this being a synchronous day, is that students have to participate in those Zoom sessions and complete coursework by a certain time of the day. If internet is down longer than, let's say, that day the internet goes down for 2 days or 3 days, then what we are requesting the parents and students to do is to reach out once that internet connectivity comes back up, to reach out to their teachers and submit that work and let them know that it was just now available, so that way we are not, I guess we could say we're holding them harmless for that internet outage and not having access to reliable internet. Parent notification, again, it's going to be, we will notify parents and students just as we have in the past as far as emergency closures are concerned, posting that information to social media, to websites, updating information in our student and parent handbooks to let them know about the attendance policies as far as the synchronous or asynchronous information is concerned on emergency closures. Expectations, again, we are treating this day just like it's a regular instructional day. So with that being said, Hope County Schools does not view these days as a day off of instruction. It's simply a change in modality. So in other words, instead of coming face to face into the building, the students are still going to participate on Zoom, Seesaw, and participate on Canvas with their assignments. Expectations continued. The first one is that if the school buildings are open, then we will operate on regular hours. In other words, when I mean that it's open and accessible, sometimes during inclement weather days, buildings are open and accessible to staff members only, where they are closed for students. Now, if the buildings are not accessible to the staff, then those days would be 8 to 12, because typically on those days where in case of an ice storm or a hurricane, whenever the buildings are closed and we do a makeup day, we typically operate on that half a day from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. So we're not losing any time on those makeup hours. The roles of the district leadership team is just to provide support during these days and have resources available and provide training to stakeholders, and then the administrators of the building are basically taking care of the logistics of the building and communicating those expectations to those staff members. So our staff expectations and communications, as we just said, we do have expectations set for all stakeholders and all staff members that are involved in the traditional workday. As you can see, that's right everywhere from teachers and teacher assistants all the way down to classified staff to include school nurses, social workers, dropout parents, guidance counselors, etc. Requirement number 5, communicate the learning targets. So again, because this is a traditional, or we are treating it just like a traditional instructional day, the learning targets are to be communicated to all students and parents as well. This can be done by communicating it through Zoom, having lesson plans ready, having information posted on Canvas in a timely manner so that students and parents can have access to that information, and as well as through participating and communicating that through like I said, Seesaw, Zoom, or any other type of technology applications. Requirement number 6, connectivity capabilities. So as we mentioned earlier, we cannot determine what parts of the district will not have access to internet on these emergency closures, but reliable connectivity is essential for those students who are in need of such devices, just as we have done in the past year and a half during COVID. Students and staff members will have access to hotspots if they need it. And also, prior to those emergency closures, as long as we have that communicated well in advance, typically we make that announcement a day ahead of time whenever we can, so that as long as that information is already posted to Canvas, students and parents can download that information and store it on Google Drive and have that for review. and that can be used offline. Requirement 7, how we will deal with students with disabilities, and this doesn't change. We are going to continue to meet the needs of those students, and we are going to provide teachers the opportunity to coordinate with EC teachers, the opportunity to coordinate and collaborate with the regular ed teachers. And those teachers, the EC teachers or those who provide support will be able to pop into those Zoom sessions, be able to pop into Seesaw sessions if needed, as well as monitor Canvas and SchoolNet activities. So in other words, those teachers will be pushing into the virtual environments. And EC teachers and EC students will also be provided with the same type of technology devices as every other staff member and every other student is provided. As far as IEP meetings are concerned, those can take place on those days with emergency closures because alternate means of participation in these meetings are acceptable by the federal regulations and state policies. So in other words, those parents can Zoom in or make a phone call in and participate. Do we have any questions about the remote instruction plan for emergency closures?
So we'll be ready to submit when called upon. Thank you, Dr. Hunt.
Thank you.
And our last item is our monthly financial report by our finance officer, Ms. Monet Chavis. If you have any questions, you can direct them to Ms. Monet Chavis. Okay, I hear no questions. So Madam Chair and members, that does conclude our informational items for this evening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dallas. It's time for closed session. Can I get a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we go into closed session for the personnel information, North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11 A1, A3, and A6, and 115C-319, consultation with attorney, which is the North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11 A3.
Can I get a second? Second. We're going in closed session for all of those reasons. I am going to call for a 10-minute. Oh, all in favor? All opposed?